say direct specific orders, but general orders and general policies came down from above. Um, and so during the Vietnam War, I decided that I was not going to Vietnam. And when I got orders to go to Vietnam, I refused those orders, turned myself into the Presidio stockade with my lawyer, um, and told them I wasn't going. And they dropped 15 years worth of charges, released me from the stockade, put me back on Vietnam orders, ordered me to report to Oakland Army Terminal for shipment to Vietnam. And I deserted, escaped, went to Canada, came back after the war was over, turned myself in again, got an undesirable discharge, became a social worker, eventually got my master's degree in social work, and have been pretty much, successful. One of the things that they constantly bombard you with in the military is that if you don't obey orders, if you don't get an honorable discharge, if you don't get all your VA benefits, you're ruined. Your life is over. You'll never hold a job. You'll never be successful. You'll never amount to anything.
And you're living proof that that is not the case.
Right. And not only that, when I looked at all the people who were in Sir No Sir, when I met them, at the premiere of the film, I realized, we're actually more successful than the average person. About a third of us, about 2/3 of us have at least a bachelor's degree, and about a third of us have master's degrees.
Let me stop you right there and ask you if you would please, for our viewers, describe the film very briefly and when it and how it became, got started.
Yeah.
How did the whole film project get started?
David Zeiger is a producer, and he was involved in supporting the GI resistance movement during the Vietnam War. There was a huge movement against the war within the military, involving thousands and thousands of GIs on bases clear across the world, really.
Right.
And one Pentagon report actually said that the GI anti-war movement infested, quote unquote, the entire military. Entire units were refusing orders in Vietnam and refusing to fight. They were engaging in search and evade missions rather than search and destroy missions.
There was fragging too.
Yeah, you had them fragging, killing their own officers. You had a riot at the Long Binh jail. You had other riots in different bases.
And huge rallies, because I was part of those rallies and even helped organize.
Yes, and the civilian peace movement and the military anti-war movement basically joined forces and supported each other.
Right.
There were thousands of deserters. Estimates run from 60,000 on up to hundreds of thousands. It was just an overwhelming GI resistance movement that eventually got to the point where the Pentagon decided that the military had become unreliable, and that's when they started withdrawing from Vietnam, going to Vietnamization, and then getting our forces out of the country, and then eventually when the South Vietnamese government collapsed, the communists won. So David Zeiger made a film about the GI movement called Sir No Sir, and it documents all the different forms of resistance. People going to jail, people marching in peace demonstrations, people speaking out.
I saw the film. It's a great film. And how can people avail themselves of that film?
They can go to sirnosir.com and they can buy the film in DVD.
All right. And I want to get back to Eddie to talk a little bit about the experience of going to Afghanistan. We've talked a little bit about Iraq, but not much about Afghanistan.
The Afghanistan theater was pretty calm. It wasn't extremely calm, but it was a little calm when I was over there because the Iraq War had already started. It took me a while to get a security clearance because of some of my history, so I wasn't allowed to go to Afghanistan for the first 2 years of the war. I didn't start getting deployed till 2003, and I went there for not that long, and then they redeployed us to Iraq. So my whole thing about the whole Afghanistan war was, when I went there, I was under the impression that we were there for 9/11 to catch, Al-Qaeda or whoever, to catch the bad guys.
To get Osama.
Yeah, to get Osama, get the bad guys, whoever,
Right.
Whoever hit New
Yeah.
York. And it was and I'm like, why are we going to Iraq? Why am I having to pack my plane full of my stuff when I just unloaded to come here to Afghanistan to, do this job that that we're supposed to be, to catching these people, and it's like. It just seemed that at that point it seemed funny to me that we were shifting all of our attention over to Iraq so quickly when I didn't see that the job had been done in Afghanistan. I mean I didn't see that.
And
the
of
job.
course, it's fallen out all over the place now.
It's fallen
that
out
that's
all
an
over the place now.
Not only an illegal war, but that it was. It had been in the planning stages for quite a while. I want to open our live line to our viewers in case they might have any questions of our guests, Michael Wong and Eddie Falcon. Our number is 621-4473. Please, just real questions. Thank you. So I also wanted to talk a little bit. You touched on the issue of torture because the prisoners that you were carrying on the planes were being tortured on the planes.
Yeah, I that's what I kind of felt like too. After, in hindsight, I looked back on it, and then like, they give you this kit that you're supposed to use with the prisoners, and it's called a puck kit, prisoner under control, and it has like diapers and like a tarp and like face masks and gloves that you're supposed to move these prisoners around with when you're touching them and handling them and strapping them down. But I didn't use it. I omitted that thing. I didn't check it out of the wherever you check out the equipment at. I forgot the name of that place, but I just felt that was really unnecessary. Nobody pooped their pants. They're all pretty well behaved. They were scared out of their minds, and the ones that we did get out of the prison, when we moved them back to Baghdad, when we landed, I told them, the SPs, and we all told them they can take off their masks, that they can look now. And then they stood up and they took off their chains and they walked into a van. And I happened to be reading Malcolm X's book at the time, and the only thing I knew in Arabic was Assalamu alaikum. And so I said that to one of them, and he said it back to me, and he said alaikum salam. And I just felt like, wow, like I don't know, it just felt good to me. I felt like I was really doing those people wrong by doing that to them, and it kind of changed my mind about it. I think that was like a really defining moment. It was that when I engaged with that person.
Right. And how are the Iraqi peoples and the Afghani people demonized by the military? Talk a little bit about that. And Mike, feel free to join in.
Well, I mean, now today, I mean, we're seeing, Iraq veterans coming back and even telling about their basic training. I mean, right from the start of basic training, you go. And this is mostly in the Marines and the Army. I didn't have any of this in Air Force basic training, but they'll set up dummies, and they will put like turbans on their head and have you shoot in like the target practice, the post with the target on it will have a turban wrapped around it, or like they'll have a dummy that you run up and like you hit with your bayonet with and they're starting the dehumanization and the racism process right from boot camp, and it's like, and they're just